Hello everyone, my name is Matthew Stevens and I am here to present my Cultural Plunge assessment for my class Diverse Learning Communities as a part of my education degree. In this task, we were asked to conduct an interview with someone who has a different social or cultural background to ourselves and interview them about their identity and on the way that their identity had an impact on the way they experience their education and schooling. So let's get into it. To begin understanding how my interviewee has their identity shaped by their schooling, I'm going to talk about myself and my identity. My name is Matthew Stevens. I'm 18 years old and I have been born and raised in Melbourne, Australia. In relation to the diversity wheel as shown on the screen here, I believe that it was my education, ethnicity, as well as my social factors such as my friends and my communities that I actively participate in that have played a large role in shaping my identity, as all of these things have been present within my entire life and are many of the things I identify myself as and belonging to. From my love of sport to my sense of humour. It is all of these factors listed here that has formed my identity. Now that I have discussed my identity, I would quickly like to discuss my interviewee. The person I have decided to interview who has done a cultural plunge is my grandmother, Carmen Lopez. She is an 82-year-old woman who was born and raised in Madrid, Spain. She moved to Australia when she was 19 with my grandfather, and as you can see, in relation to identity, we both have many differences with our identity and how we identify. However, due to which she is a great person to give me the greater insight upon my identity and how identity can affect our schooling. In relation to our identity, there are many things that we both share that we consider to be a large contributor to our identity, such as our family is very close and family has always played a large role in shaping people's identity. As well as we are both active in the same communities, as you can see from the photo here, we both volunteer at Keilor Park Soccer Club weekly and through this have shared many hobbies such as sports and cooking. However, there are also many differences between us. As you can obviously see, there is quite a large age gap as well as there are many differences in schooling, culture, and belief, which can give me a much deeper insight into how identity has an impact upon their schooling. In relation to my grandmother, three key influences that had played a large role in her development of identity were schooling, war, and her move to Australia. Her move to Australia played a large role upon her identity as it was her first true act as an adult. She had just gotten married to my grandfather and wanted a fresh start, somewhere that was completely remote to her and a place she knew nothing about. This played a large role on her identity as she had to learn many new cultural acceptable things that Australians do, as well as at the same time she still does many Spanish things in Australia, such as have a nice siesta, as well as do many Australian things in Spain when she goes over there, such as play AFL. She believes that this cultural combination has made her very unique and it forms a large role on her identity. My grandmother also believes that it was her schooling that had played a large role in shaping the person who she identifies as today. As the way her school was set up, women were to do classes that were only appropriate for women, such as cooking and sewing, which has really shaped the type of person she is today, as she loves to cook and is always sewing something such as blankets and sweaters to give out when she believes, which is a large part of the person she is today. In relation to myself, my key influence that I believe have played a large role in my development of my identity is my friends, schooling, and interest. In relation to my friends have always been with me, and through this time, we have developed our own sense of humour, hobbies, and values that we all bring into the real world outside of our groups, and it is these people we can see in the photo here that have really played a large role in my development and who I see as a big part of my identity. In relation to schooling, schooling has played a huge role in my formation of my identity, as it is where I have learnt and developed many of my views and beliefs as a young adult. It is also where I realized that I wanted to be a school teacher myself, and is where I found out many of my passions outside of education, such as history, art, and music, which are all very big parts of my life, which I contribute to my identity. In relation on reflecting upon this question and my answer that my grandmother and I gave, we believe that very similar things have shaped our identities. However, it is clear that they have done so in very different ways. In relation to how my grandmother had a school develop her identity, it did so in a way where she was experiencing quite a social injustice, where they were restricting her capabilities and making her do classes that were seen to be gender appropriate, Whereas for myself and my schooling, we were taught in a way where equity and equality were priorities, and that both men and women could choose whatever classes they wanted to do and be able to follow their dreams and desired careers by choosing the subjects they needed to do. Throughout our development, many social concepts played a large role in our development, as it was through our schooling and other social events that we have played a large role in shaping our identity. Another interesting factor that has shaped my grandmother's identity was the idea of othering, as proposed by Burnett in his research, as due to my grandmother's cultural plunge, she had both Spanish people seeing her as an Australian and Australian people seeing her as a Spanish. Although she embraced this idea of having a new nationality, she was being excluded by both majorities and being placed in these external groups in which she did not belong with the majority. In relation to the way that education has helped shape my grandmother's identity, she believes that the way education was set out there has played a large role in her development and understanding of culture in Spain. As in Spain, their school days were split into two halves with a 2 hour gap in the middle so that children got the chance to have a siesta in between classes, which was a midday nap, which back in the day was a very large part of Spanish culture and many people would do so. Continuing on the discussion of the first question, schooling was also set up in a way that would almost segregate the boys and the girls to do tasks that society seemed socially appropriate, such as females would do classes such as cooking and sewing, while men were to do classes such as woodwork. Schools were also to shape my grandmother's identity, as due to the social aspects of school and her friends there, she believed that it was these people, as well as the teachers there, that helped her develop her values and beliefs on certain issues, as well as to shape her personality and what type of person she is today, which is a huge part of her identity. In relation to myself, schooling had obviously played a large role in the development of my identity, as discussed earlier, as schooling is where I found many of my passions, friends, and developed many of my values and beliefs, as well as a place where I decided what I want to do with my life. My entire life so far has pretty much been within an educational system of sorts, and is where I've learned almost everything I know today. Without my education, I would not have many of the things I identify myself as. In reflecting upon how my education experience had differed from my grandmother's, and as well as how it influenced my development of identity, both of us had our schooling play a large role in the people who we are today. Due to the large difference in age, there has been many developments in relation to civil rights and the development of equity and equality. So for her, schooling to seem very relevant in social injustice in this day and age, back then was quite accepted and it was the norm, which has given me lots of insight to the change that has occurred over the past 70 years. The social shaping that schools did which to the past to shape morals and values is extremely different to the 21st century education, as people are now encouraged to follow their dreams and break stereotypes and remove social stigma and shaping. One similarity between us, however, is that we both share a belief that through our educational experience that many of our morals and beliefs were developed, as well as had a large role in the shaping of our personality and identity. This was referenced in the writing of Let and Meehan as the sponge model of identity formation. It is this model that is a theory that believes that many aspects of our identity are being formed through the people we know and are mimicking their beliefs and values and twisting them into our own, which is, I believe is for us is quite the case. Although we have put our own twist on our beliefs and ideals, we believe that the people around us had influenced our morals and beliefs, which has shaped our identity. Overall, it is clear that our individual identities can play a large impact on the way we experience education, as due to me and my grandmother's differences in culture, age, and gender, we had experienced education in very different ways. Although we both believe that it is our education had a great and positive impact upon our development of identity, the way in which the 21st century experienced education is in a way where one's identity does not limit them in achieving their desires and dreams, and that individuals are encouraged to step up and pursue their dreams, no matter what the limitations may seem. This interview has really benefited me in a way that has made me reflect upon my own morals and values, as well as not to ignore the ignorance that may be seen within the classrooms, and to make sure that all children of all different identities get an equal go of education, unlike many of the women of my grandmother's generation. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Here is a reference list, as well as here is a bibliography.